We're in the middle of a series that we've been just called Love, stepping into this whole idea of love based off of 1 John chapter 4. And today we're going to focus our attention on verse 11 through 16. If you're here with us for the first time, or maybe you've been with us for a while and didn't know this, every week on our app, you can follow along with our digital notes, a place for you to actually fill in the blanks. And then also, you could actually write your own notes. And when you're done, all you have to do is hit that share button, and it's sent to your notes on your phone, or you can share it to an email, so on and so forth. I know a lot of people actually enjoy following along. John chapter 4, 1 John chapter 4, verse 11 through 16. We're going to start in verse 11, and it simply reads like this. Dear friends, that's you and I. That's who he's writing to. I know the theological depth in this room. I'm about to hit it hard. You all ready? It goes on to say, since God loves us so much, that much, we surely ought to love each other. Say, each other. The more I read 1 John, I'm convinced that he is not talking about our love for those who are not outside of the house. He's talking about our love for each other inside the house. He's talking about our inability, unfortunately, at times, to showcase love to the person sitting on your right and left. Those who call themselves children of God. Now, when you take that even further, unfortunately, in 2023, the reason this message seems so timely is because we're struggling to love people who we should have no problems loving. And yet, several weeks ago, or actually a week ago, I had a chance to go back and visit kind of my hometown, and at least where I spent the most of my time. My hometown's in New Bedford, Massachusetts, but I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and we were driving by my old house in Margate. Margate, Florida, beautiful little city outside of Fort Lauderdale, and as we were driving by my old house, I was distinctly reminded of what it was like to live in a home with siblings. Now, I want to take some of y'all back there. It's like some of y'all only children. God bless you. The Lord loves you. But for a moment, I want to talk to those who have had siblings, whether 1 or 15, because the truth is it doesn't really matter. To live in the house with siblings is a unique experience. Now being a dad and having not just my boys, but having guests from time to time live with us, like it's a totally different nuance. But when you're living with siblings, life's a little different. Specifically as a kid, because I didn't know how to love. I don't know what love is. I'm this young kid trying to figure out who I am. I'm trying not to be selfish. Never mind trying to figure out how to love my brothers and sisters. And what would happen from time to time is, the house would get a little tense, and it wouldn't necessarily look like loving people in the house. Do you know what I'm talking about? Arguments over the TV. Who's watching what when? Back then, arguments over the one phone that was stuck to the wall via a long cord. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Lisa, get off the phone. You've been on the phone for 14 hours. The phone's in another room stuck through a door. And we know it's the phone. It doesn't, like you had call waiting. Everybody remember call waiting? The tension, not just over the phone, not just over TV, but the tension around dinner tables, the tension around friends being brought in, the tension. There are times when you look into a home, you might not sense the love that home actually kind of navigates in. Some of you who have children know exactly what I'm talking about. And although it's messy, although there are times where it's tense, good luck talking bad about my siblings. Now, you can say exactly what I just told you, but good luck me not responding. What I'm saying is there are moments where it doesn't look like love from the outside, but from someone from the outside to treat my siblings the way that I might have just treated them is unacceptable. And what we find in that setting is that it's because we're trying to figure out what love is, and we are simply mimicking or showing shadows of the love that my mom and dad have for the house. If you notice, in most homes, it's mom and dad saying things like, you got to learn how to love each other. Like you never, you remember your mom saying things like, one day, I'm not going to be here. It's only going to be you two. Come on, somebody, throw that guilt trip on that kid. My boys are twins. I use it all the time. One day, it's all you're going to have. He's all you're going to have. What are you talking about? I'll have plenty of. No, he's all you're going to have. You got to learn how to love him. And what happens in most homes is that the love of a mom and dad, the kids are trying to figure out what love is. And the reason it's messy is that we're not going to always get it right. It's just a shadow of the love that mom and dad hopes that we would develop for each other. And John says within the house of God, there's no difference. It might be messy. There might be some things that we're going to have to struggle through, but our attempt is to showcase the love that's been shown to us. Verse 11, dear friends, since God loved us this much, we surely ought to love each other. Not love each other because we like each other, but love each other because he first loved us. He first loved us. He set the blueprint. And since he loved us so much, it means, if you're following us in the notes this morning, his love means that we can learn to love each other. We have, and I'm going to be stepping on all kind of toes this morning. I'm just sending it out early. Just letting you know early. So just kind of look at your toes and apologize to him now. We have a tendency in today's culture, love has become this very selfish thing. So we say things like, I can't control who I love. It's just going to kind of happen, and because it just kind of happens, I can't control it. We fall in and out of love quicker than anything else. And there's this thought that somehow, because it's this ethereal feeling and emotion that's fleeting from time to time, there's no control over who we love or how we love. And yet, what we find in this passage is God is imploring us through John's writing to learn how to love one another. John chapter 13, verse 34 explains why this is so important. It says this, so now I'm giving you this new commandment. Notice he says this is a commandment. He doesn't say that this is a request. He doesn't say that this is an option. He says this is a commandment that you would love each other just as I have loved you. You should love each other. Your love for me, for one another, watch this, will prove to the world that you are my disciples. We've kind of taught this wrong to some degree. What we have taught from time to time is that the way that we love each other defines God's love to the world. What Jesus says is the way that you love one another defines who you are and who you belong to. You remember your kids growing up used to say things like, not in this house. Why? Because your kids' behavior reflected the name that they carried. I'm starting to use that with my boys now, poor things, 12 years old, and I got to stop using so many stories about them. But at 12 years old, there's times where I'm sitting down and I'll say, Hernandez men don't do. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that there's a name you're carrying. What Jesus would tell each and every one of us is that the way we love each other isn't this grand reflection of the love of God, although there is some indication that way. What Jesus would say is you need to be more concerned about is that how you love one another tells other people whose house you belong to. For a moment, if we're being identified by how we love one another, if we love just like everybody else loves, that fleeting, temporary, non-committed love, it doesn't say that anything except we're loving just like everybody else loves. But after the last several weeks and moving into the next several weeks, what we'll learn is that when we learn to love like he loves, they'll know that there's something different in us. They'll know that there's something different in us. So, John, what does that type of love look like? I'm glad you asked. Great question. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. You probably memorized this as a kid. Love is patient and is kind. Love is not jealous, boastful, or proud. It's not rude. It doesn't demand its own way. It's not irritable. Stop trying to highlight your spouse's Bible. That's messed up. It's not irritable. It keeps no record of being wrong. It doesn't rejoice about injustice. Come on, somebody. But it actually rejoices when the truth wins out. I've learned that I know the scripture is really clear that we're to mourn with those who mourn. But it also says that we're supposed to celebrate with those who celebrate. And I think for so many of us in our current day culture, celebrating with those who win when we don't is tougher than mourning with those who've lost. But true love never gives up. It never loses faith. It always hopes. It endures through every circumstance. If you're asking me, what does it mean to be a part of the house of God? It means to be a child of God. What does it mean? How should we love each other? I'm telling you, 1 Corinthians gives us our descriptor. Well, John, that sounds great. I'm not sure I can love like that. I'm not sure I can love like that. 1 John chapter 4, verse 12. No one has ever seen God, but if we love each other, watch this, God lives in us, and his love is brought to full expression in us. It means this, his love means that we can show the full expression of God's love. Any photographers in the room? Just one. There's a couple of y'all. Go ahead, raise your hand, it's okay. Everybody's a photographer. We got cameras, don't we? It's all in our pockets now. If you're a photographer, or if actually some of you have been on the other side of a camera, you've probably seen one of these, or something that looks like this. This is a reflector. And it's actually not a great reflector, but this is what a reflector looks like. The objective of the reflector is fairly simple in photography. If I'm taking a picture on one side of my face is darker than the other, if the subject is not properly lit, or I'm trying to do something creative with the lighting, the objective is to find out a source of light, take the reflector, and then point that light or direct it on the area that has not received the light that I feel like it needs. So just to make sure that you catch this picture really clearly, the reflector in itself is not a source of light. It simply reflects light. Now, the way that it works is fairly simple. It first needs to line up with a good source of light. If it's not lined up with a good source of light, it's useless. Because in and of itself, it does not emit light. In order for it to be of any use, it actually has to first align itself to a good source of light. Man, this is preaching and I don't even go nowhere, right? Like there needs to be that alignment. In order to fully showcase the love of God, we must first fully understand we need to be in line with the love of God. And what I love about that picture is the natural response to the full expression of God's love is to reflect that love in others. When you are loved fully, you have no problems loving others. Why? Because God's love is brought to full expression in how we love others, and it's never designed to be contained but distributed. That the beauty of God's love, when we do this right, we are reflecting the fullness of who God is into the darkest places. That they are then at that point drawn themselves to the light and become a reflector too to the places that we don't know and don't see. It's the beauty of what the full expression of love means. That not only have I received this love, but because of all that God's done, in the way that he loves me fully, and again, back to that list from earlier, because that love is patient, and that love is kind, and that love is not jealous, and it's not boastful, and it's not proud, and it's not rude, and it doesn't demand its own way, and it's not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wrong, and it doesn't rejoice in injustice, but rejoice when truth wins out. It's a love that never fails, it never gives up, it never loses faith, it's always hopeful, it endures through every circumstance. Because I love that way, I've been loved that way, I can reflect that love to others. So yeah, I don't think outside of the empowerment of the Spirit of God that lives within us, that any of us can love to the fullness that God has loved us. But because he lives in us and we can reflect that light to others, they can see the fullness of God's love. They can see the fullness of God's love. 1 John chapter 4, 16, we're going back there. It says this, we know how much God loves us, and we've put our trust in his love. God is love, and all those who live who love live in God and God lives in them. His love means that we can trust in his love. Whenever we talk about love, we use this word and we attach it to love. We use the word falling. I was actually so intrigued by this because the truth is, everyone in this room, if maybe used it at one point or another, you said something like, man, I have fallen in love. Or, man, you started dating that guy, how's it going? We're falling in love. It's funny because even when it comes to relationships that are not romantic, just pure friendships, if you're being honest, there's some similarities in that feeling to say, man, we're really connecting. I don't know how it happened. We had a piece of pizza and had a conversation and boom, now we're best friends. Did we just become best friends? We just became best friends, right? There's that falling. And I did a little research. Nobody can really trace back the phraseology. Some guess that it's gone back as far as the medieval ages, which is kind of crazy because a lot of phrases don't survive that length of time. But most of them, most of scholars point to the idea that the reason why we use that term falling is because love feels sudden and sweeping. It feels sudden and sweeping. So we use that term when we talk about things like falling asleep. How long did it take you to go to sleep last night? I don't know, but I bet you there was a point where you felt like sleeping was sudden. Now, whether you stood asleep is another question or not. But falling asleep, we use that term. Another term that we use is falling behind. And again, it's not that guy that, was running next to you, you knew he was going to pass you eventually, and it might have took a while, but the moment he gets in front of you, there's a thought of, how did he get in front of me? What happened? You fell behind. It was sudden and sweeping. The reason many of us struggle with love is because we know that feeling of falling isn't just something we experience at the beginning of love, but many of us have been crushed when that quote-unquote love ended and it was sudden and sweeping. They often say it's not the fall that hurts, it's the sudden stop at the bottom. And the reason why so many of us struggle, again, not just in romantic relationship, we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but specifically when it comes even to friendships, that sudden sweeping stop at the end that left you crushed and hurting keeps us from loving others. Knowing this, John communicates that the problem is we put our love and our trust in love in the wrong things. So what he starts by letting us know, look, we need to love because God is love. And I know that you struggle with love because of that crushing feeling when love fails. So what you're supposed to do is put your trust in God's love. Put your weight into God's love. Anchor, not trying to call back to a series or our word for the year, but to anchor into God's love, because there is a huge difference between a slip and a fall. There's a huge difference between a slip and a fall. Listen, to be anchored in God's love doesn't mean that there won't be times where our heart still hurts. Relationship ends. We've invested time, energy, and effort. I'm not telling you that there's not times where that relationship would still hurt, but there is a huge difference between a slip and a fall. Matthew chapter 5, verse 4 is a passage that I actually quoted last week, but I felt like was appropriate for this moment, because when Jesus is speaking, he says this: God bless those who mourn. This is the one passage that I have highlighted in my Bible that I struggle with. Why? Because I don't like the idea that I've loved somebody and then I've lost them, because that's what mourning means, is that I've risked to love and I lost. And yet what Jesus says is, blessed are you. Let me give you the modern translation. It's good when you learn how to love and lose. What? I don't like that, Jesus. But in his descriptor, he also goes on to let you know why. He says this: for they will be comforted. See, the difference between a slip and a fall is that when I slip, I'm caught by something. When I fall, there's nothing that catches me. And what Jesus wants you to know is that when you risk to love and lose, that there's comfort because you're anchored your love to who he is, not into that relationship. Come on, somebody. That somehow the beauty of this scripture says that when we risk to love, I'm not telling you it's not going to hurt, but the person who comes to comfort you, the one who comes to bring that comfort, who catches you from that slip, is Jesus himself. And what I know about the way that he loves me is he loves me perfectly. Listen, a church that's marked by hatred is not a church at all. A church that's marked by division needs to just stop and call itself a political party already. A church that's marked by love. A church that identifies by love. By the way that we love each other. It's messy. There's times where you don't like what I say and I don't like what you say. There's times you're going to see what I do and you're like, I don't know why he did that. There's some times where I'm going to see what you do and I'm like, I don't know why they did that. There are going to be moments where we sit across each other from a cup of coffee and you're going to look at me saying, Pastor John, I don't know why. And I'm going to look across you and say, well, I think I have the answers, but I don't think you're going to like it. And we're going to have these moments of tension, and that's okay. Hear me. It's messy. It's messy. It's messy. But what happened to the type of church that there was such a love that connected each and every person, that we mourned with each other, that when we celebrated when others won, where we weren't rude with each other. See, this idea, what Jesus is saying is, listen, the one thing that's going to mark you is how you love each other. I'm going to get in trouble. It's all right. We're already there. I want you to notice. I want you for a moment to notice. Although I believe that a high priority in a church should be the worship experience. We're not marked by our worship. We're marked by our love. Although I believe in preaching the word, like, you got to understand, everything we do, this is the thing that I love to do the most, outside of having coffee with some of y'all. I really like that too. I believe in the importance of preaching, but what marks us is how we love. So listen, what I can say about Center City Church is this: our focus and attention will always be to how we love each other. We might have the greatest worship, your preacher might be so-so, but we will fight to learn how to love, and love at a high level, so that every person who walks in, what I want them saying when they walk out is, man, they know how to love. That this house would be marked by the way that our Father loves. And then lastly, John 16 through 17. We know how much God loves us, and we've put our trust in his love. God is love, and all who love live in God, and God lives in them. And also, we live in God, for our love grows more perfect. Number 4, his love means that we can make our home in God's love. So, are you a person who lives out of your suitcase when you go out of town, or do you put your stuff in somebody else's dresser? Do you use the hotel dresser? Do you actually hang your clothes up when you get? I hang my clothes up and when I go to a hotel. Yes, I see you. I could have probably guessed to some of y'all. How many of y'all like, I barely hang my clothes up at home? I live in a suitcase. I live in a suitcase. So many issues getting older and traveling. I now have to pack a pillow. Anybody know what I'm talking about, where my old people at? You're like, John, that seems bougie. Yeah, but if my neck goes, you scarred for 3 days. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could talk about Disney World all you want. My neck's done. I'm not seeing Goofy, Donald, nothing. I'm going to be in the hotel like this for 3 hours. Like, I don't know, who wants to do that, right? So I pack my pillow. I got to pack sneakers now. When I was young and I couldn't afford sneakers, it was one thing. Now, Now I got one or two nice pair of shoes. Like me and my wife have a competition to who's gonna pack the most shoes. Like we sometimes have suitcases just full of shoes. She makes fun of me because I think I've kind of taken her over. My shoes are just big. They're just big sneakers. Anyway, we're moving on. Packing's a little different the older you get. What I love that John paints this picture, John says that when it comes to love, that you can find a home. Your love can find its home. It can be anchored to it. It can find its home. And he uses that verbiage. And I think it's important because home is where I'm vulnerable. Home is where I'm accepted. Home is where I have my place. I don't have to guess where I'm going to put my toothbrush. But when it comes to love, unfortunately, we've tried to make home in other people. So we live our whole lives out of suitcases. And it gets messy. Because we step into each relationship kind of like this. Can I put my heart here? I know we just met. I know this is our first coffee and we just met on Tinder or whatever you guys use now because I don't know what any of that is. I swiped left and sure enough, we ended up at this coffee shop. I don't know what we're doing. Can you hold my heart? And because if we're being honest, the motivation of our heart is also to not just be loved, but there's a part of us that wants to love others. Even those with good motives sometimes say, oh yeah, I got that. Who's going to hold my heart? Oh, you can hold, oh, so now we're a couple. Because you hold my heart and I hold your heart. And things get a little confusing when they're not holding the heart the way that you thought they were going to hold the heart, because they don't know how to really hold this thing. Let's be honest. This thing isn't necessarily meant to be held. It's meant to be placed. It's meant to find a home. So then, unfortunately, what ends up happening, and we have not talked super practically about dating or singleness or marriage and what love looks like in those connotations, because we are intentionally going to focus on that quite a bit in the summer. We're really excited about our Greater series. It's going to be phenomenal. If you were here last year for it, it's be great. But for those of you who are maybe in that dating stage, can you just kind of hear the heart of your pastor? You've been told that there's somebody out there that's just been designed perfectly to hold on to your heart. That's not what we do. The truth is we're not good at it. We're just not. So you're like, John, then what's the alternative? It's right here in 1 John. He says, make your home in me. You want your love to grow? Make your home in me. Put your love here. It actually goes on to this idea of being rooted in the original language, which adds this whole other metaphor, because we can't be rooted if we keep unrooting. That's what I've learned from my wife. She does this all the time with her plants. That plant needs to have a stable place. The reason so many of us struggle watching our love grow is because that we're living in suitcases. We haven't established roots. It's not that guy's responsibility to care for your heart. It's not that girl's responsibility to make sure she has a good home for that heart. It's not that next friendship's responsibility to make sure that heart has a good place to root. What John says is, stop worrying about them and plant your love in Jesus, like that your heart would be rooted in Him and Him alone. And it's a fertile ground, and He'll teach you how to love. And that bitterness will have to leave because we're being loved perfectly. And that hopelessness finds its end because we're being loved perfectly. And then one day we'll be able to extend that love to others because our roots are planted. We stop living in hotels and we start finding our home in Him. I know that is opposite of every rom-com you've ever watched. I know every reality TV show has that big moments where there's somebody playing a violin. What they don't show you is the brokenness after. Nobody can hold your heart the way that He does. You're like, well, John, well, what does that mean about the way that you love your wife? It's a great question. Here's what I know. I love my wife because I've been loved perfectly. And she loves me because she's been loved perfectly. So when my love disappoints her, I'm not saying she doesn't slip, but she doesn't fall because her heart is anchored into the love of someone who is perfect, and it's not me. She doesn't complete me. He's completed me. And everything else is an expression and overflow of a love that makes me whole. I can't love her fully until I've been fully loved. She can't love me fully until she's been fully loved. And our hearts are rooted, because at 17 years old at a dusty church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, coming to the front, I still remember the day that my life was transformed, that I was called, that not just that I was saved. That happened years before that at an elementary high school. It happened years before that at high school. But I remember the day that Pastor Billy Cole made a call and started talking about the love of God, and that I fully came alive because I found out where my heart would be rooted. And now everything's just an outpour. It's my objective as a reflector to remove all limitations, to remove all distractions, and do whatever I can to be a full reflection of the full way that I've been loved. So my question to you is, have you been loved? Are you experiencing the full expression of love? Have you rooted your heart in Him alone? And I know that that's a tough question, and you probably have some really churchy answers in the back of your head, but move those all aside for a moment. Do you find yourself anchored in Him? Maybe, again, this is not a romantic thing. Maybe you're looking for relationships to fulfill that thing in you. Maybe because of the scarring of some well-intended people, maybe mom and dad said some things, maybe relationships ended wrong. You have some deep scars, and you're just carrying this suitcase, waiting for somebody to love you fully. His name is Jesus, and He already has. It's just whether or not you've accepted and opened your heart to that love. So with your head bowed and eye closed for a moment, I just want you to maybe take a moment to think. Take a moment in the quietness of this room. If you've not been loved, you're like, Pastor John, I need to experience a love like that. I would love to pray with you. I'd love for this to be that moment. That this would be that moment that you would experience His love. That His love would come alive. That you would be able to root your heart and your love in Him and Him alone.